nanalo ng Family Feud na team dito hugs ng 2,000 pesos.
Family Feud, 5:40 p.m.
Welcome to my episode that is called
Nagmamano pa.
That's okay.
Has begun holding funerals for the victims of Sunday's terror attack on Bondi Beach. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says the two suspects in the shootings were motivated by Islamic State ideology. The surviving suspect has been charged with 59 offenses, including terrorism. The U.S. is ramping up its pressure campaign in Latin America. The White House has announced a blockade on sanctioned oil tankers into Venezuela. It comes after the U.S. seized a tanker off the coast of Venezuela last week. The Trump administration has also designated Colombia's largest drug cartel a terrorist group. Nick Reiner, son of U.S. film director Rob Reiner, has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in connection with the killing of his parents. Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle were found stabbed to death Sunday in their L.A. home. Reiner was one of Hollywood's most successful writers and directors throughout the 1980s and 90s. This is DW News from Berlin. You'll find much more on our website at dw.com.
From Reuters TV, U.S. at 7:46 p.m. yesterday.
Hi, I'm Carmel Crimmins in Dublin. It's Tuesday, December 16. Today, Rob Reiner's son was arrested on suspicion of murdering his parents. The Bondi gunmen were inspired by Islamic State and recently traveled to the Philippines. Trump brands fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction. And the trial of a judge who helped a migrant evade an immigration arrest kicks off. This is Reuters World News, bringing you everything you need to know from the front lines in 10 minutes, 7 days a week.
Wow.
Tributes are pouring in on social media for Hollywood director Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle, who were killed in their home on Sunday. President Trump also commented on the director's death, mocking him in a post and suggesting he died because of his anti-Trump beliefs. The comments triggered rare criticism from some of the president's own Republican allies. Reiner's 32-year-old son Nick is in custody, charged with the murder of his parents. Our reporter Lisa Richwine in LA has more.
Rob Reiner and his son Nick have both talked about Nick's struggle with drug addiction. He had been in and out of rehab for many years. He and Rob made a movie called Being Charlie in 2016 that was a fictionalized version of what they struggled with. How Nick had experienced many rehabs that did not really help him, but finally got on a good path and got to the point where he wanted to tell the story. Reiner was in his 70s. He was still very active in Hollywood. As recently as September, he had just released Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues. He was working on another Spinal Tap project related to that. There was a screening that I attended in September, and the entire family was there, Rob and Michelle and their children.
Police in Providence are back on the hunt for the gunman who opened fire inside a Brown University classroom, killing 2 students and injuring 7 others. Investigators are combing neighborhoods door to door, asking for home surveillance footage after releasing a man they had held as a person of interest. The campus remains tense, with classes cancelled for the rest of the year.
It would appear that there is evidence that this was inspired by a terrorist organisation, by ISIS. Now,
Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, speaking at a police news conference after Sunday's Bondi Beach attack, police say the 2 alleged gunmen who attacked a Hanukkah event there had traveled to the Philippines before the shooting and appeared to be inspired by Islamic State. Islamic State-linked networks are known to operate in the Philippines. The assault killed 15 people, including a rabbi, a Holocaust survivor, and a 10-year-old girl. Talks between Ukraine, European leaders, and US envoys in Berlin have sparked some optimism on a path to end Europe's deadliest conflict since World War II. The US says its envoys made an unprecedented offer to provide NATO-style security guarantees for Kyiv at talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, warning that such a deal would not be on the table forever. But Moscow has yet to agree to any of the changes discussed in Germany and has not indicated any willingness to do so. Over on Wall Street, the Nasdaq wants to trade around the clock. Amanda Cooper from our sister Markets Pod Morning Bid has more on that. Hey Amanda, does this mean more work for you?
Thanks, Carmel. Well, I don't know yet, but what I can tell you is that Nasdaq has indeed applied to trade 24/7, and it's following in the steps of the New York Stock Exchange as well in response to investor demand for more access for more of the day to those big liquid popular stocks that have grabbed so much attention on Wall Street this year. And it feels like this is sort of the direction of travel for exchanges everywhere right now, more access to more people.
Thanks, Amanda. You can listen to Morning Bid wherever you get your podcasts.
Source of illicit fentanyl. This gives the president kind of domestic political cover for what he's doing in terms of international relations, in terms of potentially pursuing a regime change in Venezuela, for instance, or having very sensitive negotiations with Mexico over economic issues.
The US Southern Command says it's carried out strikes on 3 vessels in the Eastern Pacific, killing 8 men. In a post on X, the military said the vessels were engaged in drug trafficking. The US has hit more than 20 vessels in the Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea, and at least 90 suspected drug smugglers have been killed in the operations. President Trump has sued the BBC for defamation. He's accusing the British broadcaster of splicing together parts of his January 6, 2021 speech to make it look like he directed his supporters to storm the US Capitol.
My mouth, literally, they put words in my mouth. They had me saying things that I never said coming out.
He's seeking up to $10 billion in damages. The BBC has apologised for what it's called an error of judgment, but insists there's no legal basis for the claim. The FBI says it's foiled a bombing plot targeting multiple targets in California on New Year's Eve. 4 people linked to the Turtle Island Liberation Front, described as a far-left anti-government group, are charged with conspiracy and possession of an unregistered destructive device. Investigators say the group intended to hit logistics centres and even ICE agents, but agents intervened before any explosives were built. A Wisconsin judge is on trial, accused of helping a migrant evade an immigration arrest inside her own courtroom. Prosecutors say Judge Hannah Duggan crossed the line. They allege she diverted ICE agents and escorted the defendant out through a back door, telling colleagues, "I'll get the heat." Her defense argues that she was following courthouse policy as immigration.
The Trump administration has loosened restrictions on the way that ICE can operate in state and local courthouses. And they understood that that was going to cause a backlash. And so pretty early on, the Justice Department directed prosecutors around the country to look for cases where officials or activists were impeding ICE in some way, and reminding them that is a violation of law, and then encouraging cases along those lines. The other thing is that the Justice Department under Trump has been having a hard time in cases that appear to be connected to their political agenda, whether that's about crime in D.C., whether it's about Trump's perceived enemies who've been charged, and then in this case where you have a judge who's accused of obstructing immigration enforcement. And so I think a guilty verdict here will be a much-needed victory for the Trump Justice Department in going after cases that are tied to Trump's agenda. And a not guilty verdict will just be another sign that whether it's judges, grand juries, or trial juries are really skeptical of a lot of these cases that the Trump administration is trying to bring against people who seem to be resistant to their agenda in some way.
And for today's recommended read, a Reuters investigation into how Meta tolerates rampant ad fraud from China to safeguard billions in revenue. Internal Meta documents show the company's reluctance to introduce fixes to scams that could undermine its business and revenues. You can read more about it by following the link in the pod description. For more on any of the stories from today, check out Reuters.com or the Reuters app. Don't forget to follow us on your favourite podcast player. If you're listening on a smart speaker, just ask for the latest news from Reuters 7 days a week. We'll be back tomorrow with our daily headline show.
That's it for your news updates. To see more stories, open Google News.